In today's video, Bitcoin has seen a drop yesterday. I want to show you that with applying geometry, we could predict that this reversal was happening on this exact date. And the stock market is seeing lower levels again. I want to talk about the reason that the stock market is seeing a sell-off. And I want to have a look at Chainlink in the Bitcoin comparative and Ethereum in the Bitcoin comparative, because those two altcoins are holding still quite strong, even though we are seeing a red day in the price of Bitcoin. So guys, all about that in today's video. With that being said, my name is Jeroen, this is the Blockchain Today, the channel where you subscribe for daily crypto videos. And right now, let's jump into the content. And welcome back to the Blockchain Today. Let's start off with having a look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame. And right now it looks like Bitcoin has broken the upper trend line right here and has broken some moving averages as well, which are quite worrying in the short term. But yeah, one thing I want to note right now is that the volume hasn't increased, so we still haven't seen the huge breakout Bitcoin is preparing for. Then when we have a look at the hash ribbon is back to normal levels, and yeah, a green dot fired, which often, actually all the time, will be followed with a buy signal. And a buy signal is very bullish if we look at historical data. However guys, do take in mind that the hash rate, a fundamental indicator, is not showing the direction of the price in the short term, but it's telling us that long term we are looking quite bullish, and that long term it is a great time to buy. For example, right here we had a buy signal as well, and if we have a look at the price, we still had in the short term, some couple of days after that, we still had a small drop before we were in this uptrend again. So guys, a buy signal on the hash ribbon still can be bullish, even though we are seeing a small drop these days. Then before we are zooming in the shorter term time frame, I want to mention the Patreon page of mine, because I've did already a couple of uploads there as well. And yesterday I've uploaded a video on Patreon where I talk about the long-term scenario of the financial markets, which scenarios are possible, and what kind of effect each scenario could have on the price of Bitcoin. And I will mention in today's video, when we have a look at the S&P 500, a couple of things I've mentioned in this video as well. And I've changed the membership levels of my Patreon page. And now you are able to watch the exclusive Patreon videos with the first tier as well. And a couple of videos that I've posted on Patreon is, for example, right here, the correlation between Bitcoin and the US dollar tethers that are being minted. I've did a Chainlink analysis right before we have seen the breakout in Chainlink. I've published as well a preview from the upcoming course, and yeah, this one is about the risk to reward ratio. And I will be posting more videos right here in the future. So if you are interested in joining Patreon for extra content, the link is down below in the description. When we have a look at the RSI, then we can see the RSI is trying to break the horizontal support right here, which is signaling us that the momentum is going to shift towards the bearish side, most likely. And if we have a look at the moving average, then we can see that Bitcoin right now has closed below the 50-day moving average, but as well below the 20-day moving average. As short term, that is actually quite bearish, because that could indicate that we are going to see a short term downtrend. And I as well mentioned in yesterday's video that Bitcoin was actually looking bullish. We were in this uptrend, we broke out to the upside from this falling wedge pattern, but the only problem was that we didn't see a increased amount of volume. So eventually it resulted in a fake out and Bitcoin came down again. And the level that I was watching to determine that Bitcoin is looking bearish again was the 9.4k. The moment we broke the 9.4k was the moment that I expected Bitcoin to continue this downtrend. And the first warning that I was seeing yesterday, that I mentioned as well in yesterday's video, is that we were having a bearish divergence. The price was making a lower high, but in the RSI we were making a higher high. And this bearish divergence was visible multiple time frames. And Bitcoin came down and tested the horizontal support right here, broke below it, and right now we are trading below this level. And a likely scenario what's going to happen, I think, is that the price of Bitcoin comes up and is going to test the former support as the new resistance, might even test this trend line before continuing lower. That is possible, but one thing I do want to point out, guys, which is very important here as well, is that we didn't see any volume the moment we broke a certain trend line, and that was exactly the problem what we were seeing right here with this falling wedge pattern. We broke out to the upside, but we didn't saw any volume, so that led to a fake out, and right now we are seeing a breakdown of a certain level, a certain support level, but we are not seeing the increase in volume that we want to see to really confirm that Bitcoin is trading in a new zone right now. And therefore you should be careful right now, because this is not a decisive breakout. And guys, I should have talked about this in yesterday's video, but yesterday I was analyzing and suddenly I found a signal that we could see a reversal at this date, and that was due to these geometrical shapes. And as you can see, this geometrical shape is exactly predicting the reversal to the date precise. And that is how lucrative geometry can actually be when trading and doing time analysis. And I know, guys, this is in hindsight, and in hindsight it is always easier to talk right, but nevertheless I still think it is important to mention. Right here we can see that Bitcoin is trading in this triangle pattern. We can see that we have found some resistance right there, and if we had used geometry, then we could predict that we might going to see a reversal at this exact date. And when we then would see the price getting rejected from that level yesterday, then that would be a good signal to short Bitcoin. Because we have multiple indicators, right? We had a bearish divergence, we had time analysis showing us that this date we might actually could see a reversal, and we got a rejection from the resistance. Then guys, I quickly want to mention the S&P 500, because I think there are a couple of scenarios possible, and I've talked about it in yesterday's Patreon update, and I quickly want to mention it in today's video as well. If we have a look at the S&P 500, then we can see that the S&P 500 is starting to look bearish again. And the reason why the S&P 500 is starting to look bearish is because of this. That is the Federal Reserve total assets. And if we zoom in on this chart, then we can see that the Federal Reserve, it looked like it stopped right now with buying up assets, and that is exactly the reason why the stock market is not continuing its growth. So the growth of the stock market is really depending on the Federal Reserve, and the more likely scenario right here is that we are going to see a continuation of this uptrend and eventually surpass the previous all-time highs, due to the fact that the Federal Reserve is stepping in and buying up the assets. That is not due to the fact that we have a healthy economy. So the uptrend in the stock market is going to bring a lot of problems with it, such as devaluation of stocks and inflation of the money supply. But it is going to look like that the economy is doing well. But there is another scenario possible, and that is that we are going to see a longer term time bear market right here. And if we are going to see such scenario, you should be prepared for that. Because if that were to happen, then most likely we are going to see a decrease in all the markets, and essentially we could see a longer term time frame liquidity crisis, which will drive the price down slowly of every asset. And for Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter in the long term what is going to happen right here in the stock market, because I personally think that both scenarios will be bullish for Bitcoin. Only the second scenario right here, if we are going to see a longer term bear market in the stock market, then it's gonna take more time for Bitcoin to pick up steam again and to gain momentum and to gain value. If we are going to see the first scenario play out, then that would have short term as well a bullish effect on Bitcoin. Then guys, I quickly want to mention Chainlink. Chainlink is still looking bullish, and even though we saw a drop in the price of Bitcoin, Chainlink's appreciation in the Bitcoin comparative didn't saw actually quite a huge drop. So this is actually looking quite bullish. Ethereum in the Bitcoin comparative is looking bullish as well. As you can see, we did broke out of the resistance line right here. Right now we are still trading above it. We backtested former resistance as the new support, and we even got above a horizontal resistance line of 0.025. But I think it's better to create a zone out of this, because we are seeing a rejection at these levels as well, right? And that is approximately the 0.026 level. And I think if Ethereum in the Bitcoin comparative can break above this level decisively and can find support on this level, then that is definitely looking bullish for Ethereum in the Bitcoin comparative, and we can expect a continuation of this uptrend and a continuation of the appreciation of Ethereum in the Bitcoin comparative. And guys, when it is good weather, I go often outside to read books, sometimes record a video, and at the moment I'm reading this book, and that is called The Kybalion, and that is about Hermetic philosophy, Hermetic principles. And I was curious if one of you guys have read this book and which lessons you took from it, because I personally think it is actually quite interesting. So if one of you guys have read this book and you got some nice insights from it, please let me know what your insight was down below in the comment section. And next to all the things that are happening in the world right now, don't forget to go outside, to enjoy the weather, enjoy the environment. And I will see you all tomorrow, and don't forget to HODL.